Okay, I think we can start now. So, hello everyone and welcome to this webinar brought to you by Star Schema. My name is Matthias Sereg, I'm a BI consultant in Star Schema, and today I'm going to talk a bit about Tableau Prep. Sorry, someone is, I think, should mute themselves. Let me find who is unmuted. Okay. So just to put this tool a bit into context, so as you all know, Tableau is basically the market leader in data visualization and building reports because of all the eye-candy visuals, the ease of use, and the new hyper engine so that you can process large volumes of data and so on. But a frequent criticism with Tableau is that they don't really offer anything in the area of data preparation. So other tools, their biggest competitors now have options to model and prepare your data in certain ways, but Tableau's data preparation is basically a couple of things that you could do when you load your data. You could write custom SQL, but most importantly, as often as not, you would need a very well prepared data warehouse or to do a lot of manual massaging of the data in Excel. So this is, I think, the gap that they are trying to fill in just to secure their market leading position. So today we're gonna talk a bit about this. So how they approach this whole story. So what is Tableau Prep and what is not? So in one sentence, Tableau Prep is a modular sequential workflow building tool that is built on the visual programming paradigm. Now that's kind of a mouthful, right? So a lot of fancy words in one sentence that might be hard to understand, but I'll just break it down. So why is it modular? Why is it sequential? What's a workflow building tool and what is a visual programming paradigm? So this is basically a screenshot of a Tableau Prep workflow. So you see all these icons here are basically steps in your data preparation process. I'm pretty sure that many of you are familiar with interface. I'm sorry, someone else is talking. Could you please just mute yourselves? Okay. Could you please mute yourself? It's somewhat disturbing. Okay, so these icons here that you see here are basically steps in your data preparation workflow. These are the building blocks of the process. We might call them modules, so this is why it's modular. Each of these modules can be configured to do whatever you would like, and each of these have certain roles that they perform different tasks. So that's why it's modular. It's sequential because there is a very clear direction of the information flow. So it's coming from the left to the right. This is where you load your data and this is where you output your data. Each of these steps basically use the information coming from the preceding step. So you cannot, for example, work with this particular step here without these finishing whatever they are doing. So that's why it's a sequential tool. And you could see pretty much what you're doing, and seeing is pretty much the keyword here. So that's why it's built on the visual programming paradigm. So visual programming is nothing else than basically giving you an interface where you can see what you're doing. So you might not be adept in SQL or Python, but you know that you want to aggregate your data, you want to filter your data, you might want to join different data sets. And you might, look it up on Stack Overflow how to write the SQL code for it. But here you can pretty much just drag and drop everything, select from drop-down menus and so on. So you could pretty much monitor what's going on here. You could see the results immediately, and that pretty much helps with prototyping and seeing what you're doing. So what it's not an ETL tool. Although you can extract and transform the data with it, you can pretty much connect a lot of databases and all the usual suspects like Excel sheets and CSV files. You can transform it, that's the whole point. But you cannot really load it, and we're gonna discuss it later. Also, it's not a data science tool. So I'm pretty sure that if you've worked with tools that are using a similar interface like KNIME or RapidMiner or Alteryx, those are data science tools, but Tableau doesn't really want to compete with these tools in their respective areas. So there are no machine learning algorithms in there, no neural networks, no statistical modules. It is what it is called, so it's a data preparation tool. So how can you get it? I'm pretty sure that many of you have heard about the new licensing structure, the licensing offering of Tableau, so we're gonna just review it quickly. So Tableau has basically created three separate roles of users that might potentially use Tableau information. So the first one is basically Tableau creator. That can be basically it's the previous desktop professional license. So you can create workbooks with it. You can publish data sources and workbooks to the server. You can perform administrative roles. So you can act as a site admin, for example, granting permissions, giving access to projects, workbooks, whatever. The Tableau Explorer is somewhat limited, so you can still see a lot of things that is shared with you. You might even download it. You might have some editing capabilities, but you cannot really add, for example, permissions to other users. So it's somewhat limited, and also you cannot really use Tableau Prep or Tableau Desktop because simply those licenses are not good for these products. And the Tableau viewer is someone who is just the pure consumer of whatever reports the organization is building. So you can grant viewer accesses to a number of people, and they cannot really change anything, cannot really download anything. They just look at it. So if you are aiming for using Tableau Prep, you need a creator license, and with that we will see what you can do. So now to the demonstration itself. So just first, this is the flow that we are going to go through, but I will not build this workflow for you right now because in the interest of time, I think it's better if you just see what it's capable of. But if you are starting from the very beginning, you open Tableau Prep and this is pretty much what you see. So there are a lot of training materials on the right side. This is basically the workflows that you have opened in the previous couple of days. There are some sample workflows for you also and educational purposes. Altogether, it's not really a very difficult interface to use. So the file menu is pretty much usual suspects here. What I think we'll use a lot is the undo button here, because let me tell you, that's something that is very useful here. The server, you can sign into a server if you have to publish something, and you can get the necessary help that you need. So if you want to start something, let's say I want to connect to a number of Excel sheets. So I just say that I just prepared a number of data sets here. I can open all three of them, and you can see that Tableau Prep basically loads all three, and I will show you how I can work with this. But let's say that you, for the sake of the demonstration, you want to join to a Postgres database. I basically created a local database just for the purposes of this demonstration. Okay, so you see what data sets you have sitting on that in this database. I chose the Superstore 2014 data, and you also see what you have here. So if you click into the import module, you see there are already a couple of things that you can do. So first, you can see what columns you have, and some sample data, what you might expect. If you don't need a particular column, you just uncheck it, or if you want to filter something, you can pretty much filter it right now, but there are better options for this. I'm gonna show you later. So you can limit your data set right here. But how you progress with this? So first of all, let's say that, okay, we just want to work with the first data set. Let's say you add a cleaning step. So what can you do with this? And back to the interface a bit, because this is what you will see the most. So this in the upper third part of this screen is basically the workflow building area where you kind of see the workflow. This is basically the data display. So you can see an overview of your data in a way that is basically shows you the range of the values that you might have and the frequency of each of the data points. So you can pretty much get a good idea of what is going on with the data, and you can focus on some things that that might pique your interest. For example, this country column here, I see that well, 4 different values for the same thing, as usually this is a very typical data quality issue, so we might want to group these together. So I see that we basically have 2,000 rows of United States. For this particular value, we only have 1 row, so that might be a single user adding something in a different way, and USA again 1 row. So you might want to just group these together. So you might select the manual selection option and select the reference value and another, or if you want to group it under United States, let's do it this way. Okay, and you kind of basically just check whether we want to group under that particular value, and that's it. So if you click done, you see that the data is pretty much grouped. You can do it in different ways. So if for example, you don't like Aaron Hawkins' name because you think that it's called differently, let's say it's just Aaron Hawk, you can pretty much edit your data like this. And if you select a particular data, you see it basically highlights whatever other data points is connected with those. So let's say that's somewhat more visible. So if you select the consumer furniture value, you see that these values are highlighted. So you kind of get a very good idea of what is going on with your data. So what is connected with what kind of values that you have. With numeric values, you also might see outliers, if there would be any. And if this is not enough for you, you also get this sample view, which is basically you see how the data looks like. And this, by the way, it's worth mentioning, is a sample of your data. So Tableau Prep is not really using all of your data when you're building the flow, just a sample of it, and just to make the building experience somewhat more fluent and easy, so you don't have to wait for millions of rows of data to load during the development phase. So it's somewhat handy. What you might also see here, just going back to the display part, for example, with the customer ID, you see that there are 573 unique values. So a lot of information just from this. Let's say I don't really want to do anything else with my data set right now, but just to go through each of these, let's say we want to merge these data sets. So I again just drag and drop the other 2. So now I have pretty much a concatenated view of the data of all the other 3 data sets. And you see it's also color coded here. So if I want to kind of separate, for example, the Postgres data from this column, I can pretty much do it. So I can just separate it here. It basically creates a new order ID column with the values of that particular column coming from that particular data set, and you see the color coding basically changed. So in this column, the data that is coming from this data set is no longer included, but I just want to cancel that, so undo it. So this again is something that's very good. Now let's look at the data. I see that there are some null values which I don't particularly like. We will try to fix this, but really, so what is going on here? We're gonna see in the other demonstration. But let's say that we want to merge these data sets, which is another important thing that you want to do. and you want to join it. Let's say it's not a union that you want to perform, you want to perform a join. You can pretty much add, your join clauses. So whatever, let's say just join the two tables based on customer ID, and you can basically specify whether you want to do a left join, a right join, or inner join just by clicking these set icons here, and you can see once it's loaded, you can see pretty much what is matching and what is not matching. So whenever you have red values, those are basically excluded because there's no match for those. And again, it's kind of a statistical overview. So like what is included, what is excluded from each of the data sets that you are working with. So again, very handy, very visual. You can follow through what is going on. Let's say you want to aggregate, so just a couple of calculations here. Let's say I want to have something by city, so I want to, let's say, aggregate the, well, let's say sales by city. So, and basically it's done. You can see it here. If you progress with the flow, and you will be working with this data. You can of course change the aggregation type. So let's say I want to look at an average. So there you go. So this is it. So if you see that this is something that's very quick, very intuitive, and easy to use, but just going into a bit more into the functionalities. So what happened here with this flow is basically I imported the three Excel sheets that I previously showed you and the data from the database. I basically did the union here, and this is something that's interesting. So the cleaning part of the whole process, and just to show you a couple more things about the interface itself, because I applied, as you can see, 13 different changes in this particular step. If I want to look at each of these, this is listed here, so you can see whatever happened. You can see that I grouped and replaced values. I added a calculated field, I renamed a certain column, filtered out certain values, etc. And if you want to look at your data, so how it basically looks like, you can pretty much just go back to this first step. It highlights whatever you were working with. If you go to the next one, again, okay, just let's make it more clear. So you have countries here. You see that I changed something in the country column, so I just click on it, and you see basically what happened is I grouped these values under United States. So you can pretty much see and follow through what is going on here. And this is particularly good when you are taking over someone else's work, so you see what is happening, which is, if you just think about it, is not really possible if you are working in Excel, so you cannot really see the steps, what's happening to your data, so it's somewhat good. But this is already prepared, so let's just look at it from how you would approach, or how I would approach a particular problem. So you see, if you're using Union, it creates a column with whatever data sets you are using, so you can see what is coming from this data, what is coming from this data, and so on. So it's again somewhat helpful. Now, okay, let's see ship mode column. I see that first class is basically written in different formats, 5 different formats. Same day again, 2 different formats. With second, there's even a typo here, and standard class. So again, very typical data cleaning problem. So what I might do, I want to group and replace, and let's say I want to use the pronunciation feature, which you see is quite awesome. So first class, for example, was originally, had 5 different versions. Now it's grouped under first class. It's very good. Same day, the same thing happened. And with second class, it even recognized, the typo and grouped it under the appropriate field. Now I still see that, okay, it couldn't really do anything with standard, with this kind of particular writing. So again, I just, select this value and have it grouped, and there you go. So this is it. There you fixed this column, which, you know, in Excel or manually, you know, it would have taken you quite some time. So again, I see the null values. We will get into it. Why is it? And let's say, okay, if you remember the original Superstore data set, this segment category field is not something that really exists there, because segment and category are two different attributes there. So okay, let's just split them. So I can use the, let's say I use the automated split. And there you go. It basically creates me the two different columns. And let's say I want to rename these. So I have a segment column there, and I have a category column there. As easy as this. So again, some were very intuitive, some were very easy, and you can work really fast with it. And now if you don't need this column, you just kind of remove this from the selection, and that's it. Okay, whatever you might have. Okay, I'm not going to fix this again, but you get the idea. Of course, just I included this, you know, VSTOL column here just to show you again, you know, the power of the pronunciation merge. So let's see how many different ways I try to write Tableau and how many will it recognize. So I again choose the pronunciation method and basically group the values into two categories. So under Tableau, it grouped these values, which is again, so if you just consider the original value and this value, for example, again, it's something that's very powerful. But you also need to see that, you might say that, well, but I don't want to group this under Tableau. Well, you can just uncheck it, and there you go. It's basically taken out from the data for that particular group. So again, it's something that's very, very good. It gives you full control over everything. And now let's say that, okay, we arrived at these sales and the other measures basically that we have, that the numeric values. So if I look at this, this is why it's particularly useful, because I see that, you know, the range of this field is basically going from 0 to 2 million. But I have basically all my values within the first bin, so from 0 to 100,000, which is, you know, kind of raises the question mark, why do we have empty values here, and why do we have just one single value here, which is, you know, even over 2 million. So if I click on it, I see that particular row of data. So whatever happened here, okay, so it's coming from the Superstore Excel, and now I see what the problem is. So it's basically a total column. So everything is empty, and basically the values are summed up here. This is, you know, something that happens very often if you're working with finance data, because finance guys usually involve something like a subtotals or totals, so you can just, you know, exclude the whole thing because you don't need it. If you want a sum of these data, you will do it in Tableau, or even you can do it here, but, you know, just excluding the data is making it more like something that's kind of looks okay. So right now you see the range change from 0 to 20,000, and you see that you will basically have values everywhere. So this is a very good way to kind of filter your data, clean your data, and let's say just, you know, add a couple of more things. Okay, so for example, I see that there are these discount rates. I'm not particularly interested in all of these, so let's just say that I don't want to see discounts that are smaller than 0.15. So I apply it, and you see that basically if you filter out all the data, that's whenever it's ready, of course. So you see that now it's excluded, and you see that each of these steps I'm making, that's basically just listed here. So you can go back to each of these and check it, edit it, you know, remove it, whatever. Also, let's say a different filtering method. So like I want a range of values. I don't want to see negative profits. So I just set, basically I only want to see positive profits. So I set it as at 0 as a minimum, and we're going to see that it also filters data to show you just that. Okay, so these are the kind of things that you might want to do here. Also, I already showed you about aggregations, just a better use case here. So I wanted to see the total sales by state and the average profit by state. Now, okay, let's say I want to remove this, and just for your convenience, I'm gonna re-add it. So it's as simple as drag and dropping the profit field here, and basically just changing the aggregation method to average, and profit by states. I even want to add average. Okay, so there you go. Yeah, you have the data now. So it's really that easy. Okay, I want to just join back to the original data set, these aggregated numbers. So basically I select as my join close state in both of the fields and both of the data sets, sorry, and I can see, whatever is going to happen to my data if I apply this. Now this view is particularly interesting and very important, I think, because I'm pretty sure that most of you have encountered the problem of multiplication when in one of the data sets that you want to join, the numbers or the values are not really unique, and you are joining to one particular value in one of the data sets, multiple values in the other data sets, and that's going to multiply your data. So if that would be the case, then I would see a lot of rows here, a bigger number of rows than I had in the original data table. So that again is kind of raising some red flags that, okay, I might want to go back and check, my join logic, whether it's good, because I don't want to multiplicate the data. So in this step, I basically just remove the other field state that is created because I joined on the field. So basically the state field in both of the data sets, and it created another one for the other data, data set that I joined, and I wanted to remove it. It's just for the sake of the pivoting that I wanted to show you. So I removed a number of fields here just to have a limited table here, so it's not altogether that many columns. I basically have just a number of attributes and all the measures. So there with the pivot, which of course, yeah, I just removed the average. Okay, let's redo it again. Okay, I'm not gonna pay you out here. Another function that it's a good opportunity to show you is if I wanted to add a new operation, this is how I do it. So let's say I wanted to do the pivoting that was there. So I can basically select the measures that I wanted to use here and just put it up here. So, and basically it's ready. So I wanted to just rename this just to have measure names and measure values, just to make it somewhat more understandable what is going on here. Okay, so now you have your data in this particular format, which might not be very useful in that particular scenario, but so whatever you see here is basically each of these measures by each of the customers, in a column and not in different columns, which is, for certain scenarios it can be good. Okay, what happened in this branch of the workflow? So I imported the returns data from another Excel sheet, and basically I just grouped. There were two different values for the return value, and there was yes and returned, and I just replaced. Basically, you can see what happened here. So I added return on the yes. I joined the two data sets together based on order ID, and there are just a number of other data cleaning options that I just wanted to show you. So let's say that in your original data that you joined, the original table that you joined, you have yes for each of the orders that were returned. And basically what you have here is, after the join, you have all the yeses for the matching order IDs and nulls for everything that was not really matching. But I don't like the null here, so let's say I just want to create a calculated field in which I specify, you know, if the returned column is null, then replace the value with no, which is exactly what happened here. But, you know, let's say I don't want another column. I just want to replace it here. Again, similar method. I just write no here, and there you go, it's replaced. It's somewhat, you know, interesting because with null values, some of the tools cannot really work well, but, you know, Tableau Prep can. So it's good. Another couple of things that you might want to do. So let's say I want this city, all uppercase, so everything is uppercase now. You can of course change it back to lowercase, so it doesn't really matter. There are a couple of interesting features here. Let's say I want to look at, you know, the product name column. I don't really like how it has numbers in there, so I just, you know, want to remove all the numbers from here. And, you know, there you go, there are no numbers in there. There's still, you know, these other characters. You know, let's say I want to remove those two, so I'll remove, you know, basically punctuation. Okay, no punctuation characters anymore. And also, let's say I want to remove all the spaces from tables in the beginning and the end, and basically removes all the white spaces. So you see, everything that you do is pretty much just a couple of clicks away, and, you know, whatever you might think about, you know, doing is very easy. So let's say, okay, I have the postal codes here somewhere. I just lost it. Okay, so this is not really a measure, right? And we know it's not a measure, so you want to convert the whole thing into a string, because, you know, this will be used as, you know, it might be used as an attribute or even a geographical information. So you might want to kind of not use it as a measure. So you see, all kinds of things, very easy to do. And let's just say that I'm ready with this flow, and I want to publish it. I mean, let's just show you how it looks like. So this is what you might do. So you have basically three options with the outputs. You can write the whole thing in a CSV. You can write, if you have older Tableau versions, you can write it in TDE or even a hyperextract. You can specify whether you want to write it on your desktop or you want to publish the whole thing to the server. So I have basically the server instance open here. You see, it's not yet published. Sorry for that. So I want to run. Okay, I'm not signed in the server. Very good. Let's just sign in then. Is it prompting me somewhere to sign in? I'm sorry. Interesting. Okay, there you go. Just a second. I could swear that I was signed in, but it seems that I'm not. Okay. Would be good if I knew my own password. Okay, sorry again for this. At least I'm gonna show you the CSV output. So I specified my desktop as the destination. So you see that it's not currently here, and if you run it, it basically starts running the flow. It's executing all these steps that I built in, and now it's ready. And there you go, this new processed and clean data. So that is the pivoted format that we're looking at. So that basically concludes the demonstration. So just before we go into the Q&A, so I basically asked a couple of questions to Tableau myself because I was interested in a couple of things, and they shared with me quite some insights about the future of this tool, and I will give you the brief assessment of this tool. So what is on the roadmap for Tableau Prep? So the questions I asked was basically like this. So will Tableau Prep be able to write back to databases? The answer for that is that no, they are following the exact same logic as they are with Tableau Desktop. So it's a read-only tool. It can read data from a lot of data sets and databases, but you cannot really write back to anything. So that's why you cannot really use it as an ETL tool. So will there be a way to have Tableau Prep generate a SQL code from workflows? I think that would be a very important feature because you might want to build a prototype in Tableau Prep, but if you want to do the heavy lifting of all the transformations that you might have in a database, then it would be very fancy if you could just copy and paste the generated SQL code and run it in a query editor or something like that. But unfortunately, this is not something that you are looking at the moment. I asked this question because I've worked on a project like this with 2 other tools. So the question goes like, will users be able to control Tableau Prep from workbooks using parameters? So just imagine a scenario where you have the workbook open and you have certain parameters on the workbook, and as you adjust the parameters, the workflow behind the data just runs again according to those parameters that you set. This would be very useful for scenario testing and modeling, but again, this is something that they are not looking at the moment. But as I mentioned SQL, I also asked if there be any integrations with SQL or Python or R in Tableau Prep, and the answer for this is yes. They are looking at integrations for Python and R, which is very useful, and just imagine the possibilities here. So if you have Python, let's say you cannot really find something that you want to do in Tableau Prep because the built-in features are not really useful for that, you could just code the whole thing and have it done within the same tool. Or let's say you still want to do some certain statistical analysis in there, you import R libraries, and there you go, you have it. So you might say that this takes away the concept of visual programming, but well, in a sense, yes, but in a sense, it just broadens the audience for this tool. So you might, give it to users with limited technical skills, but you could also give it to users who are more adept in using scripting languages. So again, you could do a lot of things with there whenever it's coming. Unfortunately, they don't really have a deadline for that yet, but they promised me that they will update the audience of this tool, so they will share everything in the community. And by the way, they kind of encouraged everyone to just read the forums, ask questions, add in ideas, etc. So it's something that I think will progress in a very quick way, because this is already Tableau Prep version 1.2. It's only been released, a couple of weeks, but it's already the 2nd version out there. So they are developing it very fast. And this is the most important question here. So are there plans for moving Tableau Prep to the server so that workflows could be scheduled? And the answer for this is yes, they are already working on it. And as I heard in another podcast made by 2 Tableau developers, everything what you see in the interface is basically JavaScript. So it was designed to run in the browser. And why it's the most important thing in connection with this tool is that workflow building tools are for one thing and one thing only, I think, and that is automation. Because you can do all these steps manually in Excel or wherever you want, but workflows are basically saving you the time to do it over and over again. Every day, every week, every month. You could just build a workflow and you can rerun it as many times as you want, and it will generate the exact same results. And that's why it's good. But currently, in its current state, this is only partially fulfilled. So this automation feature, because as of now, you can only have this as a desktop tool. So you have to open the tool, you have to load the data, you have to run the data flow, and it still saves you a lot of time, but it's still manual. But if it's on the server and it can be scheduled, you could say that, okay, I want to run it every day at 9 p.m. so that I have fresh data in the morning when I go to work, or have the flow running every 30 minutes or something like that. So that would be full automation. And And that's basically, if you combine it with Python and R and the power of, Tableau Server, it's going to be a very powerful tool. Because unfortunately, right now, Tableau Prep is pretty much limited to the computing capacity of your desktop. So you might now want to process, hundreds of million rows with it. But if you publish the whole thing to the server, where you could, get a configuration which is a lot stronger than your desktop, it's, the sky's the limit, as they say. So it will be a very good tool. So my assessment of this tool, the Tableau Prep, as of now, is good for desktop analysts to work with data, but they like the technical skills to prepare it. And as mentioned, as data and, basically it's becoming more and more important. And the audience for it, the number of people at corporations who need to work with data and need to interact with data, is increasing. But it's increasing far faster than the number of people who can write, proper SQL queries and, who can write Python scripts and stuff like that. So, we need to kind of, enable them to kind of work with the data. And this tool, I think, is a good first step for that. And also, if you think about it, so going to IT or data engineering team to prepare or to create new views or new tables for you whenever you have an ad hoc report or whenever you have a report that's built for a smaller audience, it's not really feasible. It's not really time and not really cost effective because, IT departments usually are, flooded with all kinds of requests and they cannot really prioritize your work, to be, the first one. And this basically takes away a lot of time. And, frankly, data warehouses and data marts are not for ad hoc reporting. So whatever users resort to, usually some other tools or Excel, and they prepare their data there. So that analytic layer, if you think about it that way, already exists between the data warehouse and the front-end visualization tools. Only it's sitting on users' desktops, and it's a manual process. It's it's not really something that's documented. It's not really something that you can recreate at a later time. So. You might say that there are VBAs and macros and whatever, but VBA and macros, the thing is, I've heard a countless number of times that, yeah, well, we had someone, who wrote the VBA 3 years ago, but he's no longer with the company. We don't know what it's doing. We don't really want to touch it because it's working, but, we cannot really, move away from it, cannot really extend it, cannot really, make progress with it. So, that's also not something that's good for users who are not really familiar with that language. So once it's moved to the server, you will have something that's shared, that's secure, that's scalable, that's self-documenting, and that's automated. And just one last remark. So if we are talking about an audience for this tool, even I think, there might be certain tech people that might use it. I use these kind of tools for prototyping, for example. So I have, let's say, a smaller sample of data, and I really want to process it somehow because I know what I need in Tableau. I know what I need in my report, but the current structure of the data is not really good. So I just start, all kinds of transformations on it, and I see what is going on. I see with each step, what is happening, and that's, if you just think about it, it's kind of cumbersome with SQL. So you can of course do it, and I know that there are a lot of very skilled SQL wizards and Python wizards out there who would say that no, it's not really important. But I think most people are visual types, so if they need to see what is happening, and once you have it, once you know what you need to do with the data to get to that desired format, and you have this Tableau Prep workflow that's basically guiding you the way, then coding the whole thing is a lot easier after that. So these are my questions and these are my assessments. So I'm not interested in what you might have as questions. So just feel free to ask if you have any questions. I see that there is. Is there a plan to record and share the webinar? Yes, there is. It's recorded and we are planning to share it. I'm not sure yet when. Any other questions? If you want to say something, I will unmute you, or you can write it in the group chat. Okay. Well, if there are no other questions, then thank you for your attention, and just a couple of useful links. So you can basically go for the Tableau Prep training materials. There are a lot. You can go for the forum to learn about other users, how they're using it, and you can pretty much check out the pricing and how you might get it. So then again, thank you for your attention and see you next time. Bye. Oh, sorry, just one last question I see. Data statistic, how many rows certain columns made on the... Okay, so the question is, are there statistics, how many rows at certain values made on the sample or the entire data set? Now that's a very good question. In the demonstration that we had, it was basically the entire data set because it was only 10,000 rows. But other than that, it's based on the sample. But the samples are pretty much randomized, and so I think it gives you quite a good impression of, quite a good idea of what is going on with the data. Okay. So as I see no other questions come in, it's really not the end. So thank you again for your attention and have fun with prep.